Ladies and gentlemen, friends and frenemies, welcome to yet another episode of the Tefula Show. Today we have an amazing guest by the name of Urenna.
Hey.
She's the founder of the Kashmir app, and she's an incredible superwoman, entrepreneur, financial expert, and she's got so much going on. So, where do we begin? So, Urenna, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come here.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. Tell me about yourself. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? And
I was born in Nigeria.
Oh, cool.
I was born in Lagos.
Oh, wow.
Almost 27 years ago.
Almost 27. Okay, cool.
Almost.
Okay, cool.
So I lived in Nigeria till I was 14.
Oh, cool.
And then I moved to London in 2007.
Oh,
and I've lived
cool.
in London ever since.
So you did high school and then uni here as well, right?
So I did some of my secondary school in Nigeria.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, 2/3 of my secondary school was in Nigeria, and then a third in London.
Amazing. That's a very similar story to me, actually. And then, what did you study at uni? Where did you go to uni?
So I went to University of Exeter.
Oh, okay, cool.
I studied economics and finance.
Nice.
I wanted to be an investment banker back then.
Yeah.
And then I realized, no.
Why?
I don't want to be an investment banker.
Why did you
I
do
just
that?
didn't like it. It just seemed like a lot of work.
Okay.
I didn't want to do it.
Fair enough. So you finished uni, then what did you end up doing then?
So I finished university, and then I started a job. So straight from university, I was working as a financial advisor at a wealth management firm.
Oh, nice.
So basically managing like investments and like providing financial advice for high net worth individuals.
Wow.
So basically like making rich people richer.
Wow. So you must have met a lot of rich folk, right?
A lot. I dealt with so many millions. Like sometimes I'll have like £3 million on my desk, just there.
Just there. Wow. Did you ever were you allowed to make personal connections and relationships with them in terms of like, okay, we can network outside of work sort of thing? Or,
not really, no.
You're not allowed to do that. Conflict of interest.
There's a conflict of interest.
Okay, wow. Because it's so tempting, right? In front of all these people with all this money.
I know.
And you have all these ideas in your head. You think, how can I make use of this connect?
Yeah.
Because look, at the end of the day, it's who you know most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So, amazing. Cool. So you do that for a while. And then the key thing I really want to know is now, how do you then come up with this idea to start what you started? First of all, tell us what your company is and how you came up with the idea.
Sure. So I'm founder of Kashmir, which is a savings platform that helps women and girls save for and buy luxury goods and experiences. Okay. So without them having to use a credit card or max their overdraft or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of encouraging them to enjoy luxury but responsibly and financially savvy.
Amazing. And does it automatically connect to an account?
Yeah, so you link when you sign up, you connect to your bank account to it, and it automatically takes the money out.
Amazing. And what inspired you to come up with this?
Everyone always asks me this.
Yeah.
So basically, I was in Harrods with my friends.
Wow, exactly what Harrods.
No.
You live in large.
No. Let's not get carried away.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking around.
Yeah. Window shopping.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I was in Harrods with my friends. This was back in 2015.
Yeah.
It was towards the end of 2015, and I was just looking around. I went to Shoe Heaven, this space in Harrods that's called Shoe Heaven. And
I don't even know where that is. So.
It's just shoes. It's literally Shoe Heaven. It's my favorite place in the world. And I saw this pair of shoes that I just really fell in love with. I tried them on and it was oh my god, it's perfect.
Yeah, I know. Right?
And I love shoes. I love shoes and I love bags. It makes me happy.
Is your wardrobe full of shoes?
Yes,
and boxes?
too many. Anyway, so I tried them on and everything was perfect. Mm-hmm. And then I saw the price and I was like, oh crap.
And I'm on a leg, right?
and probably a kidney too.
Yeah.
So it was £620 for the pair of shoes. And I was sort of thinking about my friends were it looks really nice. And I was but it's I don't want to spend that money on shoes that I didn't plan for a budget for. Yeah. So I ended up buying the shoes. And also at that time, obviously because I was working as a financial advisor, trying to be responsible with my money, save, blah blah, and save for a mortgage that's never gonna happen, things like that. Exactly, so it's impulsively spending £600 on a pair of shoes just didn't make sense to me.
Of course,
So I ended up buying the shoes, and then that evening I was just thinking about it, and I was man, those shoes. And then I was that if I had a special stash of cash just for these sort of impulsive luxury purchases, the sort of money that I was putting away, tiny bits of money, £50 here, £20 there, putting towards something in the future, then I wouldn't have felt guilty, because like the problem, like I said, wasn't that I didn't have money. I did, but it was in my savings account and sort of like earmarked for like, you know, the responsible stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, and then that's kind of how the idea came about.
And then you come up with the idea, because you don't have a tech background for fact, so, but you have a financial background. How do you then begin to implement this? Like, what were your first steps, the first steps you took for this?
God, this is so long ago, I don't even remember. But I'd say when I had the idea initially, because I'm sort of person that I don't really think about, like, if I have an idea, I just do it.
Just do it.
I just figure out a way and do it. Basically, I just hack my way into the situation.
That's good.
So at the time, I spoke to my friend. So he was technical, and we were sort of like working on it together. But then he had to leave because like he had to like move away, and it couldn't work, and like he couldn't like commit to it. So it was just kind of, I was like, okay, back to square one, and I have to figure this out on my own. And I didn't know like anything about I didn't even know the startup world existed. Like I was always corporate. So I literally did not know that world existed. And I think from like obviously researching like on like online and just sort of like learning new stuff, and then going on Eventbrite and seeing, okay, like what events can I go to, so sort of learn a bit more about like stuff. And then from that was how I sort of like was opened into this world of like startup, and again through Twitter and stuff. So in terms of like obviously from a technical point of view, once I sort of figured out exactly what I wanted to build, because with Cashmere there isn't anything like it in the UK. And so there wasn't really a blueprint for me to follow to be like, okay, so these people have done it, so let me do something similar but then tweak it a bit, and blah, blah. There was literally nothing. So it took me a long time to actually figure out exactly, you know, what were the regulatory implications. I had to read a lot of like fintech companies, like their terms and conditions to figure stuff out.
Yeah, that's true.
FCA, right? Yeah, exactly. And I found the FCA absolutely useless. Like in terms
for those that don't know, what is FCA?
So the FCA is the Financial Conduct Authority. So they're the body that regulates like all the financial institutions and make sure like they're not doing bad stuff, kind of to protect you as a consumer.
Amazing.
So obviously they're great as a body, but it's like as a fintech company, they're terrible because like I find them very they're not very proactive, they're more reactive, because obviously fintech is still relatively new industry. So I remember I was like emailing them trying to ask questions so that like I know that I don't break any rules, and then they're always like, oh, refer back to the handbook. By the way, this handbook is like 1,000-page long. Like, I'm not gonna read that. So answer my question, please. So anyway, so once I figured out all like the technical, all the regulatory stuff, blah blah, then I basically got a freelancer to build. So at this time I was still working in my finance job. So I got a freelancer to build the product. But actually, no, before that, before I actually built the product, I just built like a landing page with like a, you know, get early access sort of thing. And I had the blog. And so I spent like a year or so like sort of like building a community before actually building the product, just kind of like obviously test the idea. So I spoke to loads of people to say that like, you know, like it's something that you would use. I did loads of surveys, loads of like focus group interviews. I also went to like events that I knew that my target audience would be in, and just sort of like ask them certain questions, but not necessarily saying, oh, this is what I'm doing, but more like questions to sort of understand what their attitudes towards like saving and credit was as when it comes to luxury. So like understanding how do you currently purchase a luxury item. So some of the questions I usually ask, like it was just random, they probably didn't know why I just got asking these questions, but I just wanted obviously that was like my research. So I usually ask like, okay, so do you like luxury fashion goods? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, have you ever made a purchase? And they're like, no. So if they said no, then I sort of like delve deeper to find out why. And then a lot of answers were like, oh, like I felt really guilty, I didn't really budget properly, I spent all my money on Uber and this and that. So it was like all of these things. So it's like, so all those answers sort of like helped me build the product. So I understood that like, okay, it's not that people don't have money, it's just that like loads of other little things I call leaks take over. So things like Uber and Deliveroo and all these like little Starbucks coffees that if you really think about it, if you add them up, like you could actually afford that handbag that you've been saying that like, oh, I really want and I can never afford. So once I spent that year or so doing all that research and speaking to users and blah blah blah, or potential users, then I now built the product, which I launched in February last year. So it's like a 1-year birthday very soon.
Congrats, that's huge. Amazing. Wow. So in the process of like building this platform, right? Like you obviously self-funded it, right?
Yeah.
Now you and I, first of all, we met at the YSYS, one of the YSYS meetups.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, YSYS is a community of like-minded creatives and entrepreneurs that kind of like, you know, support each other and like, you know, network and kind of like, you know, help each other out. And yeah, and like you had this idea in this embryonic stage, and obviously you're trying to figure out. One of the things we spoke about was obviously the funding aspect, right? As a super early stage startup entrepreneur, especially being from a minority background, like from minority groups, it's incredibly difficult. Like,
yeah.
So tell me or tell the audience more about that challenge you went about. Like, what was the challenge for you in terms of raising money? Did you approach investors in the super early stages, or like what was your experience with that?
So when it was still like, I guess IDSA, before I launched the product, I spoke to investors, but not really to ask them for money because I knew that I was way too early for that. And I kind of believe in bootstrapping for as long as you can and like testing your concept using your own money. Because I think it makes you a lot smarter if you're using your own money compared to if you're using someone else's money, because you're wasteful when you have someone else's money. So I sort of like make connections with like different investors, but like angel and like VC, but more for like advice and like sort of like getting their input on like what do you think of this, and like getting especially from investors who sort of invested in like other, let's say like fashion tech companies, let's say people who've invested in like a company like List or like Farfetch and things like that, just to kind of get their views on like it from the fashion point of view, like and the consumer point of view, and then also speaking to investors who have invested in like fintech companies, so like, you know, people who invested in like Moneybox or and things like that. So just that, like, getting different perspectives and just really understanding it, and basically like asking investors, what do you look for before when you invest in the company? And then once they've told me that, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I sort of refine my pitch based around that. So I kind of like spent a bit of time like building those relationships and stuff. Even though I knew that was way too early for them, and it was really helpful to like do that anyway. And then once I was ready to, so I left my job in finance in June last year. And so I was like, I'm gonna leave my job and then I'm gonna raise money. And I spoke to my friend Debbie, so Debbie founded YSYS. I said to her, like, I'm gonna raise this money, well, the first half of my money by October 31st. That's what I told her that. And then I was like, okay, I've said this now. I don't know how am I gonna do this? And I had no team. I had like
so you're a solo founder throughout this entire time? Wow.
So I was like, God, okay, how am I going to do this? So anyways, I kind of like, what was my tactic? Initially, I think I did things wrong when I started actively raising money. So I sort of started focusing on early stage VCs, so venture capitalists. And like, the thing about the UK is that when they say early stage, like, the early stage is not what your brain tells you early stage. Early stage, you mean like it's the very beginning stage. No. Exactly. That's not what early stage in this country means. It's like, you should have a functioning product. You should have like 10,000 users. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I remember I met with a VC once, and no, it wasn't. I met her. It was emails, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, this is a really interesting concept. Blah blah blah. When you got like 20,000. By the way, I was raising £300,000. It's not that big a deal. Like other big businesses are raising millions. So 300k is like nothing compared to like other companies are raising. Anyway, so she was like, "Oh yeah, when you've got like 20,000 active users, that's when we want to come in then."
That's their definition of early stage.
I was like,
that's
sis,
madness.
I'm sorry. If I had 20,000 active users, I would not be coming to you for 300k. I'd be coming to you for at least like 5 million, at least. Right. So I was like, okay, well, that's a waste of my time. And so it was kind of like, so I felt like I spent a lot of energy and time just like dealing with these sort of like people, and I was like, you know what? Scratch this. I started again, and then basically I looked at different companies, so like companies that were sort of similar to mine in terms of like maybe audience, or maybe they were also fintech or like fashion tech or whatever, and then I looked at who their investors were in terms of like angel investors. So and I used like AngelList and Crunchbase. Did a lot of research, created a whole Google sheet. So I wrote everything down, and I wrote a list, and then I started searching through these people on LinkedIn and to see if I had any mutual connections, And then if I did,
Very
I was
smart.
like,
Yeah.
text me, can you connect me to this
Connect
person?
this person, yeah.
So I did that.
And did that work?
Yeah, it did. It did
Wow.
work actually. I had like a long list of investors that people were like connecting me to, blah blah blah. So it was good to meet with them, speak to them, blah blah, get their perspective and stuff. And then, so while all this was also going on, so there was a lady I met back in October 2017. So it was our Black History Month event with Bloomberg. And it was an event I didn't even want to go to at first because I was really tired that evening. But I went to anyway, and I met her. And at that time, she was the chief accountant at Christian Louboutin.
Wow.
And you know when you go to an event and you just meet someone for like maybe like 10 minutes and then
of course.
always to LinkedIn and blah blah, you never really follow up after
Yeah,
that.
so, yeah.
That was basically what it was. I never followed up.
Wow.
And then randomly, like maybe like 4 months later, so maybe like in April last year,
Yeah.
she found me on Instagram somehow, and then she DM'd me and she was like, oh, like I don't know if you remember me, but we met at blah blah, and I was like, oh yeah, and then she was like, oh, she's doing like a blog thing for like Black women or something, and she wants to like feature me on there, interview me on there. I was like, okay, cool. So she's a Black woman herself. And then I was like, cool. So we met for dinner. She interviewed me, and then she was now asking me, like, you know, like what's going on with your life, like what's going on with Kashmir and stuff. And I said, oh, like this other time I was still working at my job, and I was like, oh, like, you know, still, you know, planning on, but I'm planning to raise money like later on this year. And then she was like, oh, she's got a friend who's an angel investor. So like when I'm ready, like she should let me know. I should let her know, and then she would like introduce me to it. So I'm like, okay, cool. So fast forward to now, this time when I'm actually not active raising, I said to her, I was like, okay, girl, I am ready.
I'm ready.
Introduce me to this guy.
Yeah.
So she did, and then I met with him like. We met initially, and in our first meeting, she said, so he's one of her really good friends. They've like known each other for like years and years. And in our first meeting, he told me that like when she told him about Kashmir and like the idea and stuff, like he said no, because he was like, I don't really understand like women's fashion and like luxury and blah blah blah. And that's another problem. It's like when you're building a female focused product,
absolutely, right,
and your investors are all men, it's really hard sell.
I've had stories
really,
of men
really
having
hard.
to say to women in pitch events that, oh, you know, I'll speak to my wife about that.
That's
or
what
I'll speak to
happened.
my daughter. Really?
Yeah, so with this guy, he basically spoke to his sister, and then she was the one who was like, yeah, like people would do it, like you know, something that girls would do.
Thank goodness he had a sister.
I know, God.
Yeah.
Thank you to whoever you are.
Oh my God, yeah.
So when my this lady spoke to him about me and Kashmir, he basically was like, nah, it's not for him. And she was like, I don't really care what you think, you're just gonna come meet her anyway. So she was really, which I really, really appreciate her for doing, because like I didn't know her, like we weren't close. I just met her once in my life, twice in my life, and she really like pushed for me, which was great. So anyway, so we met, and then he was really like, once he actually met me and I explained to him the vision and everything, like he was like, I get it and stuff. And then obviously him speaking to his sister also like helped him, like so we met for like, we had like maybe like 4 meetings or so, and then it was sort of getting to the point where like we were like maybe like in like September. I remember I had this October deadline.
Of course,
so I was like, God, what is happening? I was looking at my bank balance. I was like, oh my God, because like I was living off my savings and everything. And then we had a meeting on like the 24th of October, 1 week before my deadline. And then that was when he said yes.
Oh wow.
I was just like, I literally went home and I started crying. I was like, oh my God. I've got my first investor. So that was kind of like the process, and it took like maybe like roughly a month for like the paperwork and all that, for us to like agree to like valuations and this and that, and then we got the money in, it was like the 28th of November.
Wow.
I remember when the money hit our business account, I took a screenshot. So I put in my family group chat. I was like, I didn't even say anything. I just took a screenshot, put it in family group chat.
Wow, amazing.
It was so funny.
So actually, two things that you bring up. So number one, you know, when you left your job to now focus on this, what was your family's reaction? Do you have family members that are entrepreneurs? Did they understand? Did they support you? What was that like?
No, my family, they're quite traditional, like quite vanilla.
Of course, from African backgrounds, most families are, right?
Yes, so obviously they weren't like against me doing this entrepreneurship thing, but they were more like, are you sure? Like, and you know, this could not work out, sort of thing. And I was like, I'm very much aware of this, okay? But I'm like a massive risk taker. Like, I'd rather do something and fail than not do it at all. Yeah. So, and I'm like, I'm young. This is time to, if it fails, it's time to fail. Like, not later on when I'm like 40 and with like 3 kids and like, you know, mouths to feed. So I was, so they weren't very like, I think, I mean, obviously it wasn't like they weren't supportive, but it was more because they're not used to like that sort of thing. And
do you have any siblings who are, or any family members who are entrepreneurs?
So my mom was a bit of an entrepreneur before, actually. So she had a farm.
Okay.
When I was younger, I remember I used to like go to the farm with her and just like she had like employees and stuff. I used to just go there to pet the goats, to be really honest, and like pick the chicken, pick the eggs, and that's really what I did. But like, so she does have like business knowledge and stuff. But then she kind of like left that and then went to
the corporate world.
So and then so that's.
Okay.
You know.
So she was, I guess, a bit more understanding. Well, your parents were supportive and your family was supportive.
Yeah.
For the most part, right?
Yeah, to an extent.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. But, you know, the other thing you talk about, first of all, how much money did you raise in total? If you're like, you know, if you want to say.
So, so my plan was to raise so I was raising 300K. My plan was to raise half of that. So half of that before Christmas. Okay. So I've done that, and then the remaining half, I still do that.
Okay.
But I'm not in a hurry because
like, of course. But like, you know, let's just highlight that for a minute, because that's a massive achievement. I mean, Diversity VC, an organization that does some work around, you know, investment in different groups of people in different sectors, have highlighted some really shocking numbers, right? And I think it's something like, you know, something like 1% or less than 2%. What are the figures? Do you remember what those figures are? I think it's like less than 2% is invested in basically non-male-led ventures.
Oh, right, yeah, that's figure. Exactly. I think for black women it's like 0.00.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like part of like the 0.0. So that's incredible, man. Well done. That's huge. It's incredible. You know, one of the things I always say is that, you know, we see all these entrepreneurs that are glorified by the media, by the tech media especially, right? And a lot of these people that are out there, like, you know, they've come from somewhere. They have some sort of privilege, right? I think we had this conversation before about Jeff Bezos, right? Yeah. Like, I respect Jeff Bezos as the next guy. Like, he's done incredible things. But let's keep it real. Like, he started from somewhere. You know, even just having 2 parents, growing up with 2 parents, right? And then he went to Ivy League school, and then he worked on Wall Street for a number of years. And I think when he left, he'd saved like 250,000 or something. Like that, and then he asked like, I think 60 of his friends to give him 50K each. I think about 22 of them gave him that money, and then his parents gave him like another 250. By the time he was kind of, you know, he'd set up like, and the thing is, a lot of like media in the tech world in general, and the business, they kind of romanticize this thing. Yeah. That like, oh, you know, like, oh, this person raised money, but actually, like, it's really difficult to go from 0 to 1. You know, that thing you were talking about like, you know, these companies or these investors say we want early stage. You know, what they really mean is that you must have a product. Yeah. But how are you going to have that when you don't, like, you know, you don't have anyone backing you. You don't have rich uncles and rich friends on Wall Street, like, you know. So, like, I just want to acknowledge you for the fact that, man, you've done amazing. Like, it's incredible. Well done. Like, you're an inspiration to a lot of people, because we know how hard this is, right? It's incredibly hard. So, during this process of obviously running for a year, like, is there anything you know now that you've learned that you wish you knew before, like, you know, you started? Like, is there anything that, you know, that you wish you know now, that you know now that you wish you'd known before you started?
So do you mean just in general?
Just in general, like towards you know.
I don't know. So I mean, like I said, when I just do stuff, I just do it. I don't really think about stuff. Yeah. However, I think I've definitely learned a lot more when it comes to even with stuff like product management. So like, you know, I have this idea of what I want to do, because with me, like, my brain like works at like, it's really fast. Like, I don't even know. I need to calm down a lot of times. But just being very like focused on what exactly, what's the problem I'm trying to solve, like focus on that, and then everything else can come later. So even like, I remember my very first, like, I guess, prototype or whatever, there was all these things and all these features and all these that and that, because I just want everything that to be so cool and so revolutionary and stuff. But it's like, no, strip out all of that stuff and just focus on that one be good at one thing. Like start with one thing and be absolutely sick at it.
Yeah.
Then we can pick something else and be really good at that. And then it's just, rather than trying to be good at every single thing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I've definitely learned to do now. So like even with like at the moment we're working on version 2 of the product, which we're hoping to launch in the next couple of months. And I've had to sort of like keep reminding myself like be focused. There's like obviously possibilities are endless, so there's always time to add new stuff. Just focus on that one thing for now.
Amazing. So like as a startup entrepreneur in the beginning, right, you're working on your own, right?
Yeah.
And did you feel like you were like the chief everything officer? Basically, you were doing everything in the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you have any friends that were giving you a bit of a hand? Did you ask any friends? Because support systems are really important, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did have friends who sort of like helping me out, like here and there and stuff. But for the most part, I was kind of just doing everything on my own, and while also having like a job in finance.
How were you able to balance that? This is the other thing I want to know.
Oh, it was hard. Yeah. Like it got to a point where like I was definitely close to having a mental breakdown because it just got so much. Like I was basically working on Kashmir. Like I wake up early in the morning. Let's say I wake up at 5, shower and get ready, and then do a bit of work for like an hour. Go to work, do my lunch break, do Kashmir work. Like after work, do Kashmir work and all that, and it was just continuous cycle. And it was just so. And the weekends also, it was just I had to do that also. So it got to me where I was like so tired. Like sometimes I used to like fall asleep at work. Like I would go to the toilet for like 10 minutes just to nap. That was how exhausted I was, and I was like, this isn't sustainable at all. But yeah, it was really really difficult. Like I don't know how. Like when I think about my friends who were sort of in that stage now, I'm like I never want to go back to that again because I know how hard it is, and I like anyone who does it, like I really salute them. Anyone who does it like properly, when I mean like they're actually actively working in a startup and also like working in corporate. Man, it's hard. I mean, working in a startup alone is difficult. Working in corporate alone is difficult. Then combine both of them, jeez.
So that leads me really nicely into my next question. So obviously, startups are hard. Working in a startup is hard and stressful. What is your approach to self-care and like your mental health in terms of how do you look after yourself, and how were you able to kind of do that over that period of time? And have you changed your approach now that you've got a bit of money and like?
Yeah. So when people ask me this question, I always say the same thing. And literally, Netflix is my self-care.
Really?
I know it sounds really weird, but it just makes me happy. Like I don't really need to do anything special. I don't need to go to a spa. I don't need to do anything. I just need to be in my bed, have nice food next to me, and have my laptop and put Netflix on, and I'm great. Wow. I'm actually great, and it literally makes me happy. Like sometimes, like I even schedule it in my calendar, like just Netflix, just chill, like literally Netflix and chill on my own, of course. Wow. And it's just for me that's literally my definition of self-care. And I can't remember. I was saying to someone the other day that like, I was saying to my sister actually that like sometimes when people say, "Oh, what are you doing like this evening?" and I'm like, "Oh, I'm busy." But what I'm actually doing is I'm going to bed to lie down and watch stuff. But for me, it's like, that's busy. I'm busy taking care of myself.
Yourself, absolutely. So, why not?
Yeah. So for me, like, it's just like really chilled and stuff. Yeah. And then also, I mean, I love like hanging out with my friends, like meet up once in a while for like a drink or 2 or 5, and just like chat about stuff and just relax. But yeah, so hanging out with friends and like. When I feel like being social, but a lot of times it's just I just want to lie down or read a nice book or something. Because
it's a challenge. Normal people with regular jobs wouldn't really understand this lifestyle because it's really difficult to balance the two, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would just think, oh, she's antisocial, but actually you're trying to balance so many things. It's just insane.
Yeah.
So if there was someone out there that was starting something from scratch, a young black girl like that was. Had this idea and trying to get it off the ground. Like, what are the maybe 2 or 3 key things you'd say to them? What steps should they take to get that idea going off the ground?
Yeah.
Since they've been through it.
I think the first thing is, okay, so I've got a few. So I think the first thing is like be really obsessed with the problem you're trying to solve. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily be obsessed with your solution because your solution can take any form, but really more of the problem. So what I mean by that is like, let's say, okay, let me use myself as an example. So my problem that I'm trying to solve is like I want to help women who, are on average income, like enjoy luxury experiences and stuff. So that could take any form. The form he's taken is Cashmere, like the, savings app tool or whatever. Mm-hmm. I could have also gone down another route and, help people to like budget better. Or I could take another route and, do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's all of these things and it's like, but all of that all still solves that same problem. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you're really, really passionate about this problem that you're solving, like that's what you should focus on. And every decision you should make should be, am I solving this problem? Not am I making a fancy product? Because I think a lot of times, and I've been guilty of that too, we focus on like the product and the end. It's like, no, take a step back. Like, because at the end of the day, if you're building something that's not, sometimes like there are a lot of things that are out there that don't really solve problem. Like, for example, Instagram, what problems that really solve? Like, but obviously now that it's a thing, now we need it. But before that, it was not really like. But you get what I mean.
Yeah,
that, like,
of course,
if you're building something that you really want, like, you want to actually put a lot of effort into, it has to be something you're really passionate about. Yeah. That's one thing. Second thing is, again, this might be a bit of a not controversial point, but I strongly believe it, and I strongly believe in founder product fit. So obviously we talk a lot about product market fit, so that like is there a market for your product, like do you know what I mean? But I always look at that sometimes when I see founders and I see the product they're building, and I'm like, I don't understand why, why you? Yeah. Because you have there's nothing about you that would convince me to use your product. And I'm a huge advocate for. Obviously, I know there are some exceptions to this rule, but I just think in general, like if you're not a consumer of your product, if you're doing a B2C product anyway, if you're not a consumer of a product, I don't really know how you can build it. Yeah. It doesn't make sense at all. But like I said, I'm sure there are exceptions to this, but I think in general, because I think you also be able to empathize with your customers, because if this is a problem that you have yourself, then you can empathize with them. And then I think the third thing I'll probably say is that like it's not easy. Like, what's the main reason why you're actually doing this? Yes. Because sometimes I've heard, because I do like mentoring for younger founders and stuff, and some of them tell me like, oh yeah, they want to start a business so they can be rich. I'm like, bro.
It takes a while.
And the chances that that your business is gonna fail. Like 90% of businesses fail in the first year. Yeah. So chances that you're gonna be in the 90%. There's a high chance of that. So you shouldn't be building a product. You shouldn't be building a business to be rich. You should be building it because it's something you're passionate about. And then if you're passionate about it, and if there is an actual market need for it, then you will be successful. It's that simple. But the goal shouldn't be, I want to be rich, so I'm gonna do this, because like doing the startup is very hard. Like it's really, really difficult. Like it will test you in ways that you never realized. Like
I used to think black don't crack until this thing, like hair starts falling out, chips are falling out.
Honestly, I cry at least twice a week just from like things go wrong. Like things go wrong more times than you realize, and you need to have that thing that's keeping you going. And money's not enough to keep you going. Like your mental state is just not enough. So it has to be like, I'm really passionate about this. I really want to build this. I want to like solve this problem. I want to do that. So,
yeah. You know what's funny? Another entrepreneur once said to me that, being an entrepreneur is not really about managing resources. It's not about managing money. It's not about managing a team. It's about also managing frustrations, because you're almost like firefighting on a daily or weekly basis. Something is always breaking, or something is always good, and so you have to sort of be emotionally stable, because if you're not, it's kind of like, Yeah. So that's crazy. Wow, that's insane. I mean, there's so many people out there that, because, entrepreneurship is so much glamorized these days, right? Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur because it's cool, it's trendy. Yeah. People don't realize on the outside, like from the outside, how hard it is to be. Like, it's an incredibly lonely journey as well. Like, for me anyway, I can speak for myself. Like, you're so busy doing stuff at random hours of the day and night, and friends will be like, hey, let's go out for dinner. And you're like, man, first of all, like, I ain't got the money, but like, also I ain't got the time. Like, I'm bootstrapping, but yeah, that's really, really interesting. So the other thing I wanted to ask you is in terms of, so you obviously spoke about like, how you spend time watching Netflix in your own. Like, what piece of tech can you not do with that you love the most, that you make use of the most? What piece of tech do you love using?
My phone. My phone and my laptop.
Wow.
Those are my... Yeah. The other... last year was towards like... It was like November or something. Yeah. I spilled water on my laptop. that hurt me. That really hurt me.
Did it stop working?
Yeah, luckily it got fixed.
It got
But
fixed,
at that
yeah.
point, it was like my savings were about to finish. I spilled water on my laptop, and then I went to the repairman. And I asked my friends like, what do I do and stuff? And the people were quoting me like 500. I was like, I haven't got 500 pounds to give you to fix this laptop. Like, I don't know where my money's gonna come in. So I think it ended up being like 120, which was way cheaper than but still, that was like a huge. I was like, oh my god, 120 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think my phone definitely, because like I just do everything on my phone, and then obviously my laptop, like work and stuff, and Netflix.
Cool. The other question I like to ask on this show is that obviously, as entrepreneurs, you always have to level up, right? You always have to read a book. You always have to read an article. You know, what is that one book? Of course, I know you've probably read, right? Like, what is that one book you've read that's impacted you the most?
So a book I'm currently reading, which I've been reading, sounds really bad, but I've been reading since 2015. So I'm a terrible person when it comes to books. Like, I start reading the book, read halfway, and I'd leave it. Yeah. Not for any reason, but just because I just get busy. And then I start another one, and I read it halfway. Then so in my room, I have like so many half-read books, which my New Year's resolution is to read everything.
Fair enough.
So anyway, so the book I'm reading now, which I think I've got like 20 pages left, is Girl Boss by Sophia Amoruso.
Okay, what's that?
So she was the founder of Nasty Gal.
Okay.
Until
so that's a clothing brand or store, right?
Yeah. So she started it off as like, she started off on MySpace.
Okay.
So they sell sort of like vintage, cool, edgy clothing. And she started off, I think when she was like maybe 21, 22. So she's still really young. She's in her like mid 30s, I think. Yeah. She started off on MySpace. They kicked her off MySpace because like apparently you were not meant to sell stuff on MySpace. Oh, wow, and then she moved to eBay. Yeah. I think some like vintage store people, like other vintage sellers, because she was making loads of sales, they got jealous and somehow managed to get her kicked out of eBay.
That's crazy.
It was just something really weird. Like, but anyway, so I really like the thing about Sophia is that I connect a lot with her because she's a bit of a crazy one, and she was a bit of a like an outsider in the sense that like she thinks very differently, and I'm kind of like that, so I see things very different to a lot of people, and I kind of related a lot to her story. And even, I mean, she's crazy though. She was quite wild in her younger days, like but I'm not at that level, but like I just could relate to so much that she was saying. And she saw a person who, you know, she didn't go to university. Well, I don't think she went to university actually. Can't remember, but she was a bit of a rebel basically. And the only reason why she started her business was because she got a hernia. Oh, no. And she didn't have any health insurance because she's American. Of course. So she now decided to get a job as a receptionist so that she can get health insurance to the job and get the hernia. So she didn't really care about the job. So it was while she was a receptionist, she was just bored. She started like on the internet, and she was like, oh, I'm going to start doing this. And that's kind of how the business started. Wow. But anyway, so like she's just very intelligent. So she didn't go through the whole traditional route of like doing a business. She's just very smart. Like, and I just love that. I love people who are like that. I don't like, I love it when people can just figure stuff out themselves without like, you know, reading 1 million books or going to 1 million courses or going to university and things like that. When people just are just naturally gifted at business, that is just, so she's exactly like that. And the fact that she was a young woman who just kind of like created like a multi-million dollar business. And so I remember I was reading this bit, she was talking about like when she wanted to get into like get investors, but she didn't need investors. She didn't know anything about investors, like because she basically started the business from like $50 or something, and then grew it to, you know, multi-million dollar company. And she was saying that like she never knew anything about this whole Silicon Valley world. It was just her friend that told her about it and stuff. And then when she went into like a room with like all the investors, and they were basically like, because they had sales, they had great profit, so it was like, I don't even need your money. So, and they were the ones who were sort of like, you know, begging for her to like take their money and stuff. And I was like, oh my god, this is goals one day.
I know, right? You want to be in that position, right?
But yeah, no, she's really cool, and she's just very intelligent, and I really enjoyed her, but just like sort of like reading her story and like all the tips that she's given, like mistakes she's made in terms of like even stuff with like hiring and like
hiring is very that's another story for another day, right?
Started on that.
So is there one person that has a group of people, one person that's inspired you the most and motivated you the most along your journey, well, in life in general?
This is a very cliche answer,
Yeah.
but it's literally Beyonce.
Oh wow.
Like
You're part of the Beehive, right?
oh, I'm like second in command, the
Yeah.
Beehive. No, but on a serious note, like I really, really, really admire Beyonce.
Why?
I was like,
I'm
what?
just being neutral, just for people
No,
that don't. I
okay,
probably know about that.
So like. Obviously, I like her music and stuff, but it's not really because of her music that I like her. I just
Yeah.
love her work ethic. Her work ethic is ridiculous, and that's why there is literally nobody living. Because I know you were going to say MJ. There is nobody living on this earth that can compare to her right now. Like, literally, name one person. Every time I say that to people, don't say anything. I'm like, because she's just so perfection. She just continuously outdoes herself every single time.
Yeah.
And it's like, once you think that she's, I've seen it all, I've done, like, there's nothing more she can do. She just comes out and just like snatches her wigs again. I'm like, what is wrong with you, woman? So I really like her, and I like the fact that, like, I think I was reading watching a documentary about her, and they were basically saying, like, literally after every single performance, she watches it again to like spot all the mistakes so that she can improve for the next time and the next time and next time, and then she puts in hours of work, and it's just that, like. That whole thing of like 10,000 hours to be like she's definitely putting way more than 10,000 hours, and you can see that with like her work is great, and even her as like and I like the fact that like she obviously that she's a wealthy woman now, so she can afford to like have a life, like a personal life and a professional life. But I just like the fact that like her personal life is also a huge part of her. She always talks about how like she loves being a mother and things like that, and I just love seeing her as like a role model that like as a woman you can have both.
You can, but you can.
Yeah,
exactly. So and the thing I love about what you just said about her is that you bring up the point that you are your own competition. Like, don't look too much to other people. Like, you have to kind of try and improve and outdo yourself every time.
Yeah.
And be a better version of yourself. So that is the other thing I really like about her, and what you've just said, which is that she's always like improving herself and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. So I have a couple of more questions. So on my Instagram, for the past 8 months, I've been doing this thing called Simon Says, which is like 1 minute of motivation, inspiration, and encouragement to encourage people like on Monday morning. Just a bit of hype, basically. I'm like a hype man, right? So I always ask entrepreneurs to give me, if they had, that what is your Simon Says kind of, what is that 1 minute of motivation and inspiration you'd say to someone that was stood in front of your face, or maybe you said to yourself to encourage yourself, or to encourage someone, to inspire them and to motivate them. What is your hype thing that you say to people?
Oh my god, this is a difficult one.
Take your time.
What is my hype? What do I say? I don't say anything to myself. I mean, one of the things I say to myself is like, you're enough. You are enough. Like, I always say that. There was a time when I was really, really down, and I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you are enough. Because obviously a lot of times you doubt yourself and you feel like, everything's going wrong, or you're not smart enough. You got like imposter syndrome. You think everyone else is more successful than you are, and all that. It's like, no one really knows anything if you really think about it, because like I've met people who I've sort of admired from afar, and then when I've met them and they tell me the stories that there's stuff they're going through, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, exactly, right?
We're all human. Like, everyone is human. So like I think understanding that you are enough and you've got the abilities to make your dreams come true, it's so important. And all you just have to do is just take the next step. Just do it. Like, literally, that "Just Do It" by Nike is like the best. Whoever came up with that, that's the best saying ever, because
absolutely,
yeah.
Wow, amazing. Cool. So how can people reach out to you and connect with you? Socials, website?
So on Instagram and Twitter, so Kashmir the app.
Okay. Like Kashmir the material, right?
Yeah, the material. So and then the Kashmir website is kashmirapp.co.uk. You can sign up, start saving for your Gucci.
Yo, it's been amazing having you on this show. I really appreciate you taking your time to come here and sharing an inspiring story, and we look forward to watching you make that progress. When you raise that second round of funding, come back on the show. Tell us. So when you get acquired or when you go public, please come back. And don't forget about this humble folk.
No.
And then we can, but honestly, your story for me has been so amazing, because I've watched the trajectory, the progress, and like, I know how hard it is for people from underrepresented backgrounds, from, being a black woman that is in tech, trying to make things happen. It's incredibly hard. So you've done amazing. On behalf of everybody out there in the startup land, and big up to you. We salute you. We support you. We're here to empower you to to support you anywhere we can. And yeah, honestly, like your story is really inspiring, and this is why I wanted to have you on the show. So yeah, that's it really. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.